it was a really neat way to conduct a study, first and foremost, because it was double blinded. In other words, the participants didn't know which item they were getting, the placebo or the product. And we didn't know, as the study conductors, which was the placebo and which was the product. And so I really appreciate that foresight into how to make sure no one knew what they were getting, us included. And when I put out a text blast to my patients that we were looking for all women, we wanted premenopausal, perimenopausal, and postmenopausal women, and that we had a product that could potentially help them with some of the hormone fluctuations that many women experience. There are so many endocrine disruptors in our environment that most women I know do feel that they have some sort of imbalance. And people were really excited and really interested to see what we might be able to help them with. And right out the gate, we had 60 women in total ready to go and ready to sign up for this project. And once the product arrived, we just had to let everybody know again. We did text blast, all the women showed up, and the questionnaires that we provided to them, they answered those weekly. And the reason we did it weekly is that women who are premenopausal, sometimes they'll get symptoms for the first half of the month that are very different from the second half of the month. Women who are perimenopausal or right before menopause, they were noticing things like, my period is starting sooner. There's only 3 weeks between my cycles. Now that I'm perimenopausal, this is terrible. So we were looking for all of those different experiences that women were having, recording them and tracking them very carefully. And every week they answered the surveys. So they got a little packet of paper with their products. And every week they turned in more results, because eventually what I wanted to do was graph them. And so the trial we did for 30 days, and the results that we got, I just can't wait to share with you. When you get to do this sort of work and really impact people's lives positively, it makes you excited to get to the office. So I'm really grateful that you included us in this project. Well, when we look at symptoms, we like to make sure that we have a numerical measure of how women self-rate these symptoms. It can be difficult to be objective when you're looking at how a woman feels, right? If a woman just says, oh, I have terrible cramps, well, okay, that's your terrible. If 0 is, I have no cramps, if 10 is, these are the worst cramps ever, take me to the hospital, where are you right now? And if they self-rate that they have a typical cycle with cramps being a 7, and we put them on the product and now that drops and their cramps are a 1 or a 2, that's a way to make sure that we can objectify the data. So when we asked for these symptom ratings, we didn't want to use words. We wanted to do a number value that the patient would self-rate and circle, because we don't know what it's like to be in someone else's body. So the symptoms that we looked for in our premenopausal were breast tenderness, mood swings, severity of cramps, night sweats, hot flashes, um, sleep disturbances, and headaches. We looked at all of those things. In the active menopause group, we looked at hot flashes, headaches, and mood swings, hormonal fluctuations in terms of how frequent are your cycles? Are you getting them at all? Are you not getting them at all? And then just overall energy, because for a lot of menopause women, their energy just bottoms out. And then for postmenopausal women, we looked at energy levels, mood swings, headaches, and sleep cycles. In other words, do you feel rested? Are you waking up multiple times a night? So those were the different criteria that we examined. And what's really great is that in our premenopausal women, 8 out of 10 saw improvement in their breast tenderness, mood swings, severity of their cramps, and sleep patterns. In the active menopause group, 8 out of 10 women saw fewer hot flashes, better sleep patterns. They weren't waking up multiple times a night. And my favorite was a lady who, every time she would get a hot flash, she would take a cap full of her product and swish it, and it would stop the hot flash in its tracks. It was the coolest thing for her. And then later, she reported that she felt cold for the first time in 6 years. Her hormones were so off the chain that she couldn't sleep under a blanket. And so she was so happy that she could go back in a bed with her husband because she was too hot before, and she could sleep under the covers. It was a really neat moment for her. So all these women are just thrilled with what they're seeing. In the postmenopausal women, we saw improved sleep, improved mood swings, improved energy levels. And some of them actually, we didn't ask this question, but a couple of them said, I just feel more motivated now because I feel like I have control over my body again. My body just feels good. So we had, places for comments where people could comment on things that maybe we didn't think to ask when we sent out those surveys. And hearing women's self-reported improvements independent of the numerical ratings, that was a very nice touch at the end of it, just to get their feedback and hear them say how much better they felt overall. With these types of things, I like the daily balancing of all of this as we are shifting through a world that has a number of hormone mimickers, estrogen disruptors. Those types of things can throw a cycle. And when we consider the fact that plastic mimics estrogen in the body, if we are eating food that is in contact with plastic, we are getting it on a minuscule scale. We're getting that endocrine disruption. Pesticides that are sprayed into the air and onto our foods mimic estrogens in the body. So that can disrupt hormones. And when we consider the capacity of minor fluctuations in hormones, how much that can tip the scale. And in the hormone world, it takes concentrations of 1 part per trillion to shift the balance. That's how powerful hormones are. And so with something like this particular product, the balancing nature of what's in it and the subtle but synergistic uptake, because it's a nanohydrolyzed product, it can get into the body in a meaningful way and just keep anybody even keel. That's what I liked about it. We really didn't have a single negative feedback loop from anybody. There wasn't a single person that said, this definitely got worse. Not one person. Well, here's what we had to promise all of these ladies. As we were setting up the trial, I remember talking with the folks at Neumi, and I said, well, let's make sure everybody gets a product at the end. That way I can tell women, you might get a placebo, you might get the actual product, but at the end of it, we'll give everybody a bottle. The women, particularly active menopausal women, they couldn't wait to come back and get that second bottle. They don't want to be without it now, especially the lady who was using it. You can use it up to 2 to 3 times daily. The lady that was swishing every time she started to feel a hot flash come on, she was back a couple days before the 30 days were up. She said, I went through this a little too fast. Is that okay? I said, well, did you experience anything negative? And she said, no, but I don't want to run out of this now. It's changed my life. So we gave her her second free bottle and off she went. But these women do want to be on it once they've experienced how much better they feel. They really don't want to be without it.